Rush hour at Mega Mart supermarket. Bright lights, crowded aisles. Vivian Cross, young, beautiful CEO in a red business dress, was selecting wine. Suddenly, two men pressed close. One pressed a small knife against her side. "Don't move or she gets hurt!" Customers panicked. Some screamed. Security hadn't reacted yet. At the nearby aisle, Noah Cole, 35, single dad, quietly squeezed his 8-year-old daughter Lily's hand. He twisted the red cord bracelet on his wrist, his voice cutting calmly through the chaos. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten." The entire supermarket went silent. Vivian turned, eyes wide with shock. Noah Cole lived in the spaces between other people's notice. At 35, he was IT support by day and night security guard 3 evenings a week. Single dad to Lily since his wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. Every dollar counted. Every shift mattered. Every moment with his daughter was precious. Tonight's Megamart trip was carefully budgeted. Lily sat in the shopping cart, swinging her legs, clutching a piece of paper covered in crooked blue handwriting. Milk, bread, small bear. The bear was underlined 3 times, her reward for straight A's. The red cord bracelet around Noah's wrist was Lily's creation, braided from yarn during one of his panic attacks after Sarah's funeral. "When you get scared, Daddy, touch the red string and remember to breathe," she'd said. "I made it so you stay calm." He touched it now out of habit. Megamart at rush hour was controlled chaos, the kind of environment where someone could disappear without anyone noticing. That's when he saw her. Vivian Cross, red business dress, designer heels, moving through the wine section with practiced arrogance, CEO of Cross Tech Industries, where Noah had done contract IT work 6 months ago. She'd treated him like furniture then, complained to her assistant about the slow internet guy within his earshot. When Noah's equipment cart accidentally brushed her desk, she'd snapped, "Be careful. You damage something expensive. You'll be paying it off forever." The humiliation had been complete and casual. Another invisible worker dismissed by someone who mattered. Now here she was, selecting wine that cost more than Noah's weekly grocery budget. "Daddy, look at the bears." Lily pointed at a stuffed animal display. "After we get milk and bread, sweetheart." That's when Noah noticed them. 2 men, mid-30s, moving through the store with purpose. They weren't shopping. Their eyes tracked Vivian's movement, positioning themselves to intercept her path. The coordination was subtle but unmistakable. When Vivian moved toward the wine section, they split up. One went to the aisle's end, the other circled to approach from the opposite direction. Military precision disguised as casual browsing. Noah's security training kicked in. These weren't opportunistic criminals. This was planned. He maneuvered his cart closer while keeping Lily occupied with her shopping list. The men communicated through subtle gestures, head nods, hand signals. Professional criminals with a specific target. When the taller man adjusted his jacket, Noah glimpsed what he was carrying. A utility knife, small, retractable blade, meant to intimidate, not kill, but dangerous enough. "Daddy, why are those men watching the pretty lady?" Lily whispered. Noah's blood chilled. If his 8-year-old could see the threat, it was already too late for subtlety. The men were closing in. Vivian, oblivious, continued examining wine labels. Other customers moved through their routines, unaware that a crime was about to unfold in broad fluorescent lighting. Noah squeezed the red cord bracelet, feeling its rough texture against his skin, a reminder of what mattered most: protecting innocent people, especially his daughter, from the violence that some people brought into ordinary spaces. He'd walked away from security work after Sarah died, choosing AT contracts and part-time shifts that let him be present for Lily. But training didn't disappear. Instincts didn't fade. The ability to read dangerous situations and respond appropriately, that stayed with you. "Lily, keep looking at your list for me, okay?" he said quietly. "Are we in trouble, Daddy?" "No, baby. But someone else might be, and Daddy needs to help." She nodded solemnly, the way children do when they sense adult seriousness, without understanding its full weight. Noah positioned their cart strategically, giving himself clear sight lines and potential resources. Some trips to the supermarket were about groceries. Others were about preventing someone from getting hurt. Are you watching from somewhere? If you saw suspicious men tracking a woman in a supermarket, would you get involved? Comment your thoughts and subscribe to see what happens when everything explodes. The attack came with practiced precision. Vivian had just selected an expensive bottle of champagne when the two men closed in from opposite ends of the wine aisle. The taller one moved first, pressing against her left side while his partner blocked her escape route. "Don't make a sound," the tall man whispered, something sharp pressing against her ribs through the red fabric. "Walk with us toward the back exit. Nice and quiet." The champagne bottle slipped from Vivian's fingers, shattering against the floor with a sound that cut through the ambient supermarket noise like a gunshot. Customers nearby turned to look, saw the broken glass and the knife now visible against Vivian's dress, and began to scatter, but not to help, to avoid getting involved. "Please!" Vivian's voice cracked with panic as she scanned the faces around her. "Someone help me!" The response was immediate and heartbreaking. People looked away, grabbed their children closer, pretended they hadn't seen anything. One woman with a full cart actually laughed. "Looks like the rich lady's having problems. Maybe if she wasn't so high and mighty all the time, someone might actually care." Another customer nodded. "I recognize her from the news. Crosstech CEO. Always talking about cutting costs and laying people off." The humiliation stung almost as much as the fear. Vivian had spent years cultivating an image of power and control. Now she was reduced to begging strangers for help while they debated whether she deserved it. Meanwhile, Noah was calculating. The supermarket's layout favored the attackers. The wine section connected to a service corridor that led to the loading docks, perfect for extraction. The narrow aisles limited response options. Security cameras had blind spots near the service areas. But the criminals had made tactical errors too. Their utility knives were intimidation tools, not weapons. The retractable blades would fold under pressure in a real struggle. They were focused entirely on controlling Vivian, with no awareness of their surroundings or potential threats. Most critically, they were operating during peak family shopping hours, with children everywhere. Professional criminals should have avoided the collateral complications. Noah quietly repositioned his cart while keeping Lily distracted. "Can we get my bear now, Daddy?" she asked, still clutching her shopping list. "In just a minute, sweetheart. Keep coloring for me." He'd given her crayons to stay occupied, but what was about to happen would be violent despite his best efforts to minimize it. The attackers were moving Vivian toward the service corridor, using the crowd's reluctance to intervene as cover. Store security was nowhere visible, probably dealing with some minor crisis in electronics or dealing with a shoplifter, leaving this section unmonitored. That's when disaster struck in the most innocent way possible. Lily's small brown teddy bear, the small bear from her shopping list, tumbled out of their cart and rolled directly into the path of the lead attacker. He looked down, annoyed, and kicked it aside with unnecessary force. "Keep your kids' junk out of the way," he snarled at Noah. The comment was casual cruelty, the kind of dismissive rudeness that powerful people showed toward those they considered beneath notice. But it was also a critical mistake. Lily's face crumpled, not just because her toy had been mistreated, but because a bad man had been mean to her daddy. She'd seen enough adults dismiss Noah to recognize the pattern, and it always made her sad and angry. "That man was mean to you, Daddy," she whispered, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. The observation carried unexpected weight. Several shoppers who'd been avoiding the situation suddenly focused on Noah and Lily, a single father with his young daughter, now being threatened by the same criminals terrorizing the CEO. The dynamic shifted. This wasn't just about Vivian Cross anymore. It was about whether decent people would stand by while criminals hurt a family. But Noah was already moving beyond emotion into tactical assessment. He'd identified his resources: a display of soda bottles that could serve as projectiles, a mop bucket near the customer service desk containing soapy water, paper towels that could be used for restraint or distraction. Most importantly, he'd mapped the lighting angles that would give him advantages without endangering bystanders. The lead attacker was getting impatient with Vivian's resistance. "Move faster, lady, or this gets messy for everyone around here." The threat was clear. Hurt the CEO, terrorize the witnesses, escape in the chaos. Classic intimidation escalation when the initial plan hit resistance. "Lily, baby," Noah said quietly, positioning himself between his daughter and the developing crisis. "I need you to close your eyes and count to 20 for Daddy. Is everything okay?" "Everything's going to be okay. But I need you to stay right here and not look until I tell you." He touched the red cord bracelet one final time, feeling the rough texture of his daughter's handiwork. A reminder of what mattered most, what he was willing to protect, and what kind of man he chose to be when violence came to ordinary places. The attackers had made their choice. They'd brought weapons into a space filled with families. They'd threatened an innocent woman. They'd been cruel to his daughter. Now they were about to learn that some fathers were more dangerous than they appeared. "You just picked the wrong father and daughter to threaten," Noah said, his voice cutting clearly through the noise and panic. Every conversation in the supermarket stopped. Every shopper turned to stare. Security cameras recorded everything. And Vivian Cross, who had once dismissed Noah as unworthy of basic respect, found herself looking into the eyes of the only person willing to risk everything to save her life. Everything happened in the space between heartbeats. The lead attacker turned toward Noah, irritation flashing across his face. "Back off, Dad. This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does." Noah's voice remained perfectly calm as he moved his shopping cart into position. "When you threaten people in front of my daughter, it becomes my concern." The second attacker tightened his grip on Vivian. "Walk away or your kid sees something she shouldn't." Wrong thing to say. Noah's training kicked in with cold precision. 3 years of night security work hadn't dulled the reflexes he'd developed during his time training conflict resolution for Port Authority. Non-lethal restraint, crowd control, pressure points designed to stop violence without permanent damage. The first move was simple and devastating. Noah grabbed a bottle of soda from the nearby display and shook it hard while unscrewing the cap. The pressurized liquid erupted like a geyser, hitting the first attacker directly in the face. Carbonated soda and artificial coloring created instant disorientation. Stinging eyes blocked vision, the shock of unexpected assault. While the man clawed at his eyes, Noah moved to the primary threat. The utility knife pressed against Vivian's side was exactly what Noah had expected. A retractable blade designed for intimidation. When the second attacker reflexively pulled back to avoid the soda spray, Noah struck the knife hand with the edge of his shopping cart. The impact wasn't hard enough to break bones, but it hit the exact nerve cluster that controlled grip strength. The utility knife clattered to the floor, its cheap blade retracting into the handle on impact. "Get down," Noah commanded Vivian, his voice carrying the authority of someone trained to manage crisis situations. She dropped immediately, years of corporate survival instincts recognizing real leadership when she heard it. Now Noah had clear access to both attackers. The first man was still blinded by soda, stumbling toward the paper towel display. Noah grabbed a handful of the rough brown towels and wrapped them quickly around the man's wrists, creating makeshift restraints. Not permanent, but effective enough to control him for the 60 seconds this would take. The second attacker, now disarmed but still dangerous, lunged forward with his fists. Noah sidestepped and used the man's momentum against him. A simple redirect, learned from years of dealing with drunk and aggressive people during his security shifts, sent the attacker stumbling directly into the mop bucket near the customer service desk. Soapy water, industrial floor cleaner, and the hard plastic rim of the bucket created a perfect storm of disorientation and injury. The man went down hard, slipping on the spreading puddle of cleaning solution. Noah was on him immediately, using another handful of paper towels to secure the man's hands behind his back. Again, not permanent restraints, but enough to keep him controlled until proper help arrived. Total elapsed time, 43 seconds. Two attackers neutralized using nothing but supermarket supplies and techniques designed to stop violence rather than escalate it. The store had gone completely silent. Every customer, every employee, every security camera was focused on the single father who just dismantled a kidnapping attempt using soda bottles and paper towels. Lily peeked around the shopping cart, her eyes wide. "Daddy, did you win?" "We all won, sweetheart. The bad men can't hurt anyone now." That's when the security guards finally arrived, followed immediately by police sirens wailing in the parking lot. Noah knelt beside Vivian, who was still crouched behind the wine display, shaking. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently. She shook her head, unable to speak. Her perfectly styled hair was disheveled, her expensive dress stained with soda and wine. But she was unharmed. "Sir?" One of the police officers approached Noah. "We're going to need a statement about what happened here." Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, scrolling through the photos he'd taken earlier. "I documented their suspicious behavior starting about 10 minutes ago. Coordinated movement, targeting behavior, weapons assessment. I have timestamps and clear images of both suspects." The officer stared. "You were gathering evidence before the attack even started?" "Security training. Old habits." Noah handed over his phone. "You'll also want to check the store cameras. I positioned myself to make sure everything was captured clearly." A murmur rippled through the crowd of onlookers. This wasn't just a lucky intervention by a concerned citizen. This was professional-level threat assessment and response. Vivian slowly stood up, using the wine rack for support. She looked at Noah with an expression somewhere between gratitude and disbelief. "I know you," she said quietly. "You worked at Crosstech, IT support, contract work, 6 months ago." The recognition was dawning on her face, along with something that might have been shame. "I remember. I wasn't very kind to you." Noah shrugged. "You were having a bad day." Everyone has bad days, but the crowd around them was recording everything, and several people had clearly recognized both Noah and Vivian. The story was already being uploaded to social media. The CEO who dismissed the IT contractor, saved by that same man when her life was in danger. "Why?" Vivian asked. "After how I treated you, why would you help me?" Noah looked over at Lily, who was carefully coloring on her shopping list again, adding decorative stars around the words "small bear" with her blue crayon. "Because that's what you do when someone needs help. And because I want my daughter to grow up in a world where people protect each other, even when it's inconvenient or dangerous." The police finished securing the two attackers, both of whom were conscious but thoroughly subdued. The investigation would reveal that they were hired professionals, paid to kidnap Vivian as part of a corporate espionage scheme involving Crosstech's latest technology patents. But all of that would come later. Right now, in this moment, a supermarket full of witnesses had just watched an invisible single father become a hero using nothing but everyday items, and the quiet courage that came from loving someone more than you feared getting hurt. "Daddy," Lily said, holding up her shopping list, "I added something." Below small bear, in careful blue letters, she'd written, "Daddy is brave." Noah's eyes filled with tears as he read it. Some lessons about courage came from textbooks. Others came from watching your father stand up for strangers in the soda aisle of a supermarket. The video exploded across every platform within hours. "Single dad saves CEO from kidnapping using soda and paper towels" became the most watched story of the week. The footage captured by multiple customer phones showed everything. The attackers threatening Vivian, Noah's calm response, the takedown using everyday supermarket items, and most powerfully, Lily adding "Daddy is brave" to her shopping list. The hashtag #CalmDad went viral instantly. Comments flooded in from around the world. When you threaten someone's family in front of a trained security expert disguised as a grocery dad. Plot twist, the IT guy she fired just saved her life with carbonated beverages. That little girl writing "Daddy is brave" broke me completely. But the real impact was more personal and immediate. The investigation revealed that the kidnapping attempt was part of corporate espionage targeting Crosstech's latest patents. The attackers were hired professionals working for a competitor, trying to force Vivian to reveal trade secrets. Noah's documentation and evidence made the case airtight within days. Meanwhile, Crosstech's board of directors was dealing with their own crisis. The viral footage had exposed more than just a kidnapping attempt. Social media users had quickly identified both Noah and Vivian, digging up the history of her dismissive treatment of contract workers. Comments and interviews from former employees painted a picture of a CEO who regularly belittled support staff. She treated people like they were invisible, one former IT contractor told a news reporter. Now the invisible guy saved her life. The board called an emergency meeting within 48 hours. Miss Cross, the chairman said coldly, "This incident has revealed serious concerns about your leadership style and decision-making. The security consultant you dismissed as unnecessary IT support just prevented your kidnapping and provided evidence that solved a corporate espionage case." Vivian sat silently as the board reviewed Noah's original contract proposals, which had included comprehensive security assessments that she'd rejected as overpriced and unnecessary. "You chose to save money on security and treated our contractors with contempt," another board member added. "Both decisions nearly cost you your life and exposed our company to industrial espionage." The termination was swift and public, but Noah was dealing with changes of his own. The morning after the incident, his phone started ringing before dawn. News stations, podcast hosts, security firms, and corporate headhunters all wanted to talk to the single dad who dismantled a kidnapping with grocery store items. He declined every interview. "Daddy, why don't you want to be on TV?" Lily asked over breakfast, carefully drawing pictures of teddy bears on napkins. "Because what we did wasn't about being famous, sweetheart. It was about helping someone who needed help." The job offers were harder to ignore. 3 different security companies offered him full-time positions with salaries that would change their lives completely. Corporate consulting, personal protection, training programs for executives. All of them required travel, long hours, time away from Lily. Noah turned them all down. Instead, he accepted a hybrid position with Crosstech's new management team. Part-time security consulting that let him work around Lily's school schedule, design safety protocols from home, and still be present for homework help and bedtime stories. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The company that had dismissed him as disposable contract labor now relied on his expertise to rebuild their security culture. His first recommendation was mandatory respect training for all management staff. A week after the incident, Noah took Lily back to Megamart for their regular grocery run. The manager met them at the entrance with a smile and a special shopping cart decorated with a small plaque, "Reserved for Heroes." "Mr. Cole, we want to thank you for keeping our customers safe," she said. Other shoppers recognized them and nodded respectfully. Some smiled at Lily, who proudly carried her new shopping list written in the same crooked blue handwriting. Milk, bread, Big Bear for Brave Daddy. Near the wine section, now completely restocked after the incident, they encountered an unexpected sight. A small memorial display had been set up featuring photos from that night. Noah helping Vivian to safety, Lily coloring at her cart, the 2 attackers being led away in handcuffs. Below the photos, a simple message: "Everyday heroes shop here." But the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. As they finished their shopping and headed toward checkout, Vivian Cross appeared near the exit. No designer dress this time, just jeans and a simple sweater. She looked smaller somehow, more human. She approached quietly, carrying a gift box. "I brought something for Lily," she said, her voice softer than Noah had ever heard it. Inside the box was a large teddy bear, wearing a tiny security guard uniform, complete with a badge that read, "Deputy Hero." Lily hugged it immediately. "Thank you, pretty lady. Daddy says everyone deserves second chances." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "Your daddy is very wise." She looked at Noah, searching for words that could somehow bridge the gap between her past dismissiveness and present gratitude. "I'm sorry," she said simply. For how I treated you. For not seeing what kind of person you are. Noah nodded. We all learn when we're ready to learn. As they walked to their car, Lily carrying her new bear and chattering about the nice lady, Noah felt the red cord bracelet on his wrist. Still there, still reminding him to breathe. Stay calm, protect what mattered most. Some days you went to the supermarket for groceries. Other days you went home knowing you'd made the world a little bit safer for your daughter to grow up in. Tonight felt like the second kind of day. 1 month later, Megamart unveiled something unprecedented in their customer service area. A framed photograph hung near the checkout lanes, Lily hugging her father in the aftermath of the incident, both of them surrounded by the everyday items that had become tools of protection. Below the image, a simple plaque read, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some hold shopping lists." The photo had become a symbol, shared millions of times across social media, as a reminder that heroism often came from ordinary people in ordinary places. Noah and Lily returned to their regular shopping routine, but everything was quietly different now. Cashiers smiled warmly. Other parents nodded with respect. Children pointed and whispered, "That's the hero, Daddy." Lily handled the attention with 8-year-old Grace, usually by showing off her security guard teddy bear and explaining that Daddy taught the bad men to be nice using soda. On this particular evening, as they finished their weekly shopping, Lily pulled out her list and showed Noah what she'd added in her careful blue handwriting. Below milk, bread, bear food was a new line. Help people who need help. Is that going on all our lists now? Noah asked. Yes, because that's what we do. At the customer service desk, the manager approached with an envelope. Mr. Cole, this came for you. Inside was a thank you card from the Megamart corporate office and a gift certificate. But more meaningfully, it contained letters from customers who'd been in the store that night, thanking him for showing their children what courage looked like. One letter from a single mother read, "My son hasn't stopped talking about how you protected everyone. He asked me to teach him to be brave like the grocery store daddy." As they loaded their groceries into the car, Lily looked up at her father with serious eyes. "Daddy, are we famous now?" "No, sweetheart. We're just us. But people think we're special." Noah knelt down to her level, touching the red cord bracelet she'd made him. Still worn, still treasured. The special thing isn't what we did that night. The special thing is that we care enough to help when someone needs it. That's not famous. That's just being human. Some lessons about courage came from dramatic moments. Others came from the quiet decision to add, "Help people who need help" to your weekly shopping list. Both kinds mattered, but only one you could teach your daughter to carry forward every single day. Which moment moved you most? When Noah took down the attackers with soda bottles? Or when Lily added "Daddy is brave" to her shopping list? Comment below and subscribe. Hero Dad Stories for more stories where ordinary people do extraordinary things.